Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Gyan Bhakti. We are currently exploring the holy scripture Mysticism of Ramayana. Commentaries by my Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayanandji Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. And we are currently on Lanka Kand and the destruction of Ravana. We were studying the mystical meaning of that. We will continue from there. When Rama first advanced towards Ravana, he went on foot without benefit of a chariot. When Vibhishana expressed his concern, Rama described the glory of Dharmaratha, his chariot of virtue. Possessing this chariot implies possessing Shubha Samskaras or pure impressions in the unconscious, which endow one with great divine virtues such as fearlessness, compassion, humility, and other qualities. When one is established in these virtues, he is far better equipped to fight ignorance than he would have been with any form of material strength or worldly power. The divine chariot sent by Indra is symbolic of his Dharmaratha. The horses of the chariot are the fourfold Antahakarana. These are unconscious, ego, intellect, and mind. They are empowered by Shubh Samskaras or pure impressions. So the journey of a spiritual aspirant is to continue to purify his thoughts, actions, deeds, so that he can create more and more pure impressions to fight against the impure or demoniac thoughts within us. While Matali is symbolic of the intuitive intellect leading the soul, Rama, to the ultimate victory, liberation. Next, Vibhishana is coronated. According to the command of Rama, Vibhishana performed the death rites for his departed brother and Ravana's body was cremated. Rama then directed Lakshmana to take the heroic monkeys and bears with him to Lanka and joyously perform the coronation ceremony for Vibhishana. The coronation of Vibhishana is the high point in the drama of the three gunas in human personality. So this is the mystic meaning. In previous Kandas section of the Ramayana, we have seen how Vibhishana, the symbol of Sattva, separated himself more and more from his brothers, Kumbhakarna and Ravana, who represent Tamas and Rajas. In the battles recounted in Lanka Kand, we see how Vibhishana, who once hardly dared to approach Ravana, has now gained so much confidence, so much strength, that he rushes to engage him directly in a battle. Also, it was Vibhishana's knowledge of the secrets of his fellow demons that helped Rama ultimately defeat them. Symbolically, all these events dramatize how Sattva increases in the human personality during spiritual movement and how powerful it becomes when it is blended with divine vision. Ultimately, when Ravana was destroyed, Vibhishana became the ruler of Lanka. Similarly, when ignorance is destroyed, the unconscious of the sage is totally ruled by Sattva or purity. The transformation of one's personality is complete. Any old Ashubh Samskaras or impure impressions have been replaced by Shubh Samskaras, impressions of peace and divine love that have been formed during the intense enjoyment of Samadhi or that experience of being beyond time and space. So let's move to the next episode. Sita is reunited with Rama. After the death of Ravana, Rama sent Angada, Vibhishana, and Hanuman to Lanka to bring Sita back. When she arrived in a beautiful palanquin, Rama said, "Let Sita come on foot so that all the monkeys and bears can see her." It was for her sake that they took up that great fight, sacrificing their comfort, and for her sake that so many of them were killed. When Sita at last came near him, Rama asked her to enter into fire in order to prove before all that she was taintless in her character and had not been swayed by the temptations offered by Ravana. In those days, such a fire ordeal was well known. People proved their purity and strength of character by entering into fire and emerging unburned. Thus, bowing down to Rama, Sita said, O Lakshmana, now assist me in performing my duty. Bring wood and set fire on it. At this time, Lakshmana was unaware that the Sita who stood before him was only the shadow of the real Sita, who had been abiding safely in fire since their early days of forest life. He was also aware of the divine intention of Rama to bring he was unaware of the divine intention that Rama wanted to bring the real Sita back to them during the fire ordeal ceremony. Thus, with his eyes brimming with tears and his heart burdened with sorrow, Lakshmana hastily collected logs of wood and set them on fire. When the fire blazed strongly, Sita walked into it without any fear and declared loudly enough for all to hear, If I have been true to Rama in mind, speech, and action, then let this fire become as cool as sandal paste for me. As she entered into the fire, the shadow of Sita, along with all the gossip of the world, was consumed to ashes. As the entire heavenly world observed the wondrous sight, the fire god emerged, holding Sita in his arms, and carried her to Rama. This radiant Sita was more divinely beautiful than ever before, and beholding her at Rama's side brought a great wave of joy to all. With their hearts overflowing with delight, all the monkeys and bears shouted, Glory to Rama, glory to Sita. So Sita's entry into fire and her glorious reunion with Rama have the most profound mystical impacts and significance. The moment the intellect is freed from the domination of Rajas and Tamas, it undergoes a process of transformation. It enters into the fire of Samadhi and emerges as intuitive intellect. Then that intuitive intellect joins the soul in the attainment of Jivan Mukti, liberation in life. So this is the journey of an aspirant, and our Gurudev, Swami Jyotirmayananji Maharaj, is an enlightened sage, Jivan Mukta. So that is why he is able to explain and relate to these profound experiences and narrate them in relation to scriptures, because he has himself been through that journey. He has experienced it. He is not just stating them, he has actually lived that journey. And now he wants all of us to also accomplish that great task of liberation, enlightenment, mukti, which is the goal of every human life. But people forget it due to the pressure of Maya and the magical force of Maya. So that is what the deeper meaning of these things are. The transformation of ordinary intellect to intuitional intellect is the central theme of all mystic systems. Ordinary intellect is what we study when we study scriptures, we read, etc. That is giving us knowledge, but it is not making us enlightened. Enlightenment comes through prajna. Prajna is our intense self-effort combined with the divine grace. And when that happens, only then are we truly accumulating that knowledge. Ordinary intellect is confined within the realm of time and space. It is always thinking of the past, planning for the future, or tackling the problems and realities of the present. But when intellect becomes purified, it soars with egoistic vision and views this world like a dream. The ordinary intellect keeps us on the earth, while intuitive intellect transcends the earth plane, directing us beyond. And that is our goal. In the deeper symbolism of the Christian cross also, ordinary intellect is represented by the horizontal line and intuitive intellect by the vertical line. When the ego is transcended, the horizontal values of life are sacrificed and transcended for the vertical values. This process, entire process, can be viewed as a process of purification. When intellect enters into the fire of Samadhi, all its impurities are shaken off. The intellect is considered impure as long as it believes in the reality of the world and goes on promoting attachment, hatred, and egoism. But once the intellect comes through the fire of samadhi, it has no impurity. It becomes one with the intellect of God, in which there can be no impurity. And with this, we conclude today's satsang, and we will continue this wonderful journey together in tomorrow's satsanga. This is Swami Nikhilananda. Om Tat Sat.